KOK Production House, studio number 2. I am Nick O'Kelly, and I am very alone in the studio today. We are not coming to you live this Sunday evening as we alluded to in the last episode, but Derek and I are taking a break for the Labor Day holiday. I am doing some traveling with my wife, and Derek is just taking a little downtime. We can sort of reset, recoup ourselves. We've got a lot coming up in the month of September and October as well that we really hope you'll enjoy. But we wanted to take a look back on this Sunday and also this upcoming Wednesday evening and do a bit of the best of To the Echo radio show. We've had so many good artists to come on, lots and lots of good connections that we've made through this show, and it's really been a pleasure the past few months doing this and having good content for the listeners. And I have to say, a lot of it is thanks to some of the contacts we've made in the music industry, one being MTS Management Group. We appreciate them for sending their artists our way. Also, just getting in touch with people here locally. We were with the Flowertown Players. We met with Charles, the director of the Charleston Music Hall, who I hope we can work with to get some acts coming on the show as well. And so we just encourage you to go back and take a look at our archives if you have not done that, just to see what you missed. We've got a lot of good interviews. We play games with a lot of our guests, and also a lot of the skits that Derek and I put together that at least we think are funny. So we're glad that you've been listening all these months, and for this evening, I wanted to, like I said, bring you some best of radio show segments. For this episode, I think we're going to showcase the episodes we did with the Silver Snails, with Ed Roman, with Catherine Barry, and also the band Windchop that we had a lot of fun with. These seem like so long ago. I really, and we've kept up with these people on Twitter, and they've interacted with our show and our site as well ever since then. It's really been some cool contacts that we've made, but certainly it has been a ride getting to know these people and interviewing them, and we've just had so many that it's hard to remember sometimes all the different people that we have met. So we hope that you'll enjoy this best of show, and without further ado, Windchop.
Hey, I've actually never been beaten, but Wilson and I, we went to a boarding school, and that kind of whipped us into shape.
Do they hit you in
Do they hit you with boards?
Yeah, they messed us up there. That was something else.
So we won't mention the name of the boarding school. Yeah, that's right.
But, we legally are not allowed to. So
that's right.
You guys
maximum security.
You guys signed some non-disclosure agreements. You guys were paid some money.
Now let me just ask one question. Was there a Catholic affiliation?
No, there was not. I don't even want to go into that. So we're going to avoid that.
Oh, okay.
So we have 6-time Grammy Award-winning, 7 American Music Award-winning band, Windchop here.
That's right.
Well, we're being hopeful. That's next year, but I'm looking into my my crystal ball.
But this year is the 2-time Dundee Award.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
So, Windchop, I tell you what, I love this name. I want to know all about the name. But first, why don't you go ahead, just introduce yourselves and tell our listeners who you are.
Okay, yes, we're Windchop. Sorry, I always wait for Gus to talk first.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fine. Listen, we don't need to know all your bickering. We just need to know who you are.
Okay, yeah, I'll go. We're Windchop. I'm Wilson. My compatriot is Gus. We are from North Carolina, but now we do not live there. I live in Syracuse, New York, and he lives in San Diego, California.
Who got the better end of that deal?
Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, but Gus, tell the story of why we're called Windchop better than I do.
Ooh.
Okay.
So you should do that.
So while we were at the aforementioned boarding school, we had 1 week where we could go out and eat something that wasn't gruel on campus, right?
Nice.
Oh, wow.
So what we did is we went over to this Mexican place called Cosmic Cantina, and without fail, every time they would get Wilson's name wrong. They got Gus every time, no problem. But Wilson was really, really tough. They got Wilso, they got Willip, I think, and then one time they got Windchop, which was so egregiously incorrect that I started calling him Windchop as like a dig, like a razz.
Yeah.
So when we were trying to figure out the band name, he was like, "What do you want to call it?" And I said, "I don't know, Windchop." And he's like, "Wait, was that like, I don't know, comma, Windchop as a suggestion?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Well, that's what we're going to call it."
So
Okay.
it all
Done.
comes down to one grammatical error.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Your first album is known as The Comma.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a
that's
story.
fantastic. Yeah, I love that.
Well, I mean, yeah. As far as people whose first language is not English leading to something so great as a band name.
Yeah.
Pretty.
Yeah.
Now, what were your grades in English? I mean, I think that should be the prerequisite of any show.
Oh, my grades. What were we took. They had a weird schooling system there where you could take whatever English classes you wanted to. I think I took Asian history. Like that was the English that I took was Asian history.
You absolutely need that.
And I was like, this is first of all not relevant, and second of all not English. But I will take it because it interests me.
William Shakespeare always goes along with Asian history. I mean, when I grew up, that's always been the case. Yes.
I can't see real well. Is that Bill Shakespeare over there? Oh, boy. So, okay. All right, so you were telling us how you met. So, like I said, we know the name, but how did you guys come together? Yeah. What's the story of your music?
Ooh.
I think
sexy.
we take that question.
Oh, okay.
I'm equipped to answer that.
Okay.
Okay. As long as you have the right tools in the belt, you know what I'm saying?
Oh.
So yeah, well, so we met at the boarding school. We were both 17 years old. This was like 2012.
Nice.
And
Oh gosh. I feel old all of a sudden.
Gus was working on an original musical that because there was an established theater program at the boarding school, but he was trying to subvert that with this sort of rogue musical production. And he asked me if I wanted to be part of that whole situation, and I said sure. So from like day one, from like the first day we met, like period ever, we were working collaboratively, whether it was music or theater or whatever. And then of course, like a year later, that was produced. It was done. Everybody loved it. Lots of fanfare to that.
11
Tonys. Oh,
We toured around the southeast region.
Wow.
For a while.
Wow.
No, it was one magnificent high school musical show.
Yeah.
No affiliation to the movie with Zac Efron, but it happened, and then we later on we graduated high school in 2014, and I had a couple songs that I had together that I was like, I want to do these, but I don't want to do this alone. Gus, you and I are doing this.
He's recording a rock album with me.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was very much like, hey, we did this thing a while ago, and I kind of want to not stop this relationship. Yeah. And so we decided to be a band, and we recorded 2 albums in my basement. Wow. And it sounded bad.
Yeah.
And then
I was going to say.
Wait. Was it your basement or was it your mom's basement?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, come on.
Okay, all right. To be fair,
I didn't think there was a story.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready. Go ahead.
The mortgage is my mom's.
Oh, okay.
But,
Of course.
But the microphone was mine.
Yeah, right.
Hey, listen, that's what counts.
Yes.
I mean, I live in my wife's house,
yeah.
but this is my microphone.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, see, you get it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
As long as you understand. Okay, cool. And then it's sort of spiraled into us shirking real life responsibilities to prioritize being in a long distance band together. It's been long distance since it started.
God, it sounds more like more work than any long distance relationship I had with a girl.
Yeah.
So that's rough, man. I mean,
So who's the hard worker and who's the lazy one?
yeah.
Well,
This is important.
we actually had this conversation the other day.
Jerry Springer, ladies and gentlemen, let's go. What do you got?
Well, it's complicated because we're both doing a lot of stuff, including wind shop, and so like I go to architecture school in Syracuse. And
Oh wow, very cool.
Gave up on yourself to become an architect,
Yeah,
huh?
I
Jeez.
see how it is.
Yeah, well, I guess you have to pay the bills somehow, but then do architects make money either? Like I don't know.
Sometimes
But yes,
they
and that's
do,
awesome, and I'm super passionate about that. But I also do wind shop, and then so that sort of lapse in responsibility or having to go between the two is hard.
Yeah.
And so Gus tends to pull some weight when he can, but Gus is also doing amazing things in videography. So like we're both doing multiple things all at once.
Oh, really, Gus? Why don't you elaborate on that video stuff?
Yeah, what do you do?
Yeah.
So to kind of embellish Wilson's answer, it's not only a matter of Wilson is slammed with architecture, which is, you know, a notoriously difficult, grueling major.
Yeah.
It's also when we signed on with our indie label Crimson Moon Records,
Ooh.
they were Raleigh based, Raleigh, North Carolina based.
Oh wow.
And I'm in a rotational program as my first like out of college job.
Yeah.
So I was able to be in North Carolina for about 8 months after college, and then I rotated to San Diego. So it was just the nature of the geography that I had to, you know, it was me with the producer in the studio all the time, while Wilson had to, you know, bleed out of his eyes over like a drafting table or whatever you do. I'm still not sure.
Yeah.
Well, like, so did you, like, Wilson, did you, like, fly over and do your stuff and then get out of there, or did you do stuff from home and send it
Actually,
over?
that whole last summer was sort of weird because, yeah, like what Gus said, he was in Raleigh, so he was able to have a lot more personal quality time. But I was working in D.C. I was working in a firm as an intern in Washington, D.C., which is about, I forget the drive time, but it's doable in a day. And
like 5 hours, yeah.
Okay, yeah, 5 hours.
Okay,
and so, like, the first 4 weekends of recording the album, which started in June, I drove down every weekend so I could do vocals and guitar parts, which were like my part of the thing. Yeah. And so we finished all of that up at the end or middle or end of July. And then I went abroad to Italy for that next semester. And so I couldn't do anything. And so I was doing architecture in Italy, and it was great and beautiful. But then like Gus was you know, knee deep in the trenches doing the album, and we were both trying to like build an Instagram and market everything and do everything all at once with a 6-hour time difference. And then I got back in December, and we, you know, got together and did more stuff. But yeah, the album was done.
We can get into that later.
Yeah.
We don't want the whole intro to be like,
oh yeah,
the whole conversation.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I'm going to be honest. It sounds very familiar. Derek and I had a band trying to promote. I went to school. He went to school. We're working. I mean, it's very. I'm telling you what. It sounds very impressive. To be very honest with you. I mean, I'm an engineer.
Don't awe him. What was that?
Point.
Oh, thank you. You actually like us. Oh.
But I got into industrial engineering through a music business degree, and then going back for engineering. So you're actually
that's really
you're
funny.
Actually,
So here's the quick story.
No.
Yes. All right. If you ever get a chance, we got a cartoon about this, but we have a To the Echo cartoon that we did.
We do. It's animated.
And the whole episode's about him losing his job. He worked at a factory, and he called me and he's like, "Dude, I just wanted to go to work. I forgot my ID, and I just had a guy scan me in. They told me to just go home and get the ID. I was like, no,
Had a badge into the facility.
Yeah, I'm going to work. So he had a guy let him in. Well, security came.
They walked me out.
Yeah, and fired him. And of course, this guy's complaining about my life's over and all that. And then he gets a temp job at a very reputable car manufacturer,
German auto manufacturer.
Yeah, and then he ended up saving him like $1 million, and they were like, "All right, we're sending you to school. We're giving you a big boy salary." So his life just got amazing. And then he goes to Germany and has the time of his life. And then an even bigger company says, "Dude, you're amazing. You're going to work for us. We're going to double your salary." And his life is just on top. This guy's the most lucky crap son of a bitch. And he started with a music business major. There you go.
But I did none of that during college.
Yeah, true.
I mean, it sounds like you're in school right now. And are you? I don't know if you want to say this on the air, but are you at Syracuse University? Is that where you are?
Yeah, I'm actually in this architecture building in like a side room right now talking to you.
That's incredible.
It's very nice reverb.
I have to be honest, bravo.
Yeah, yes,
very good for you.
Good, yes.
And then you go to San Diego. What school are you in San Diego? I mean, while we're talking about schools here.
Oh, well, I graduated North Carolina State University with a degree in engineering as well. Yeah. About 10 months ago, and the job I'm in right now is like, hey, you're not a real person yet. How about we rotate you 3 different times throughout the company into 3 different divisions, and you can kind of figure out what you want to do, and each of those rotations is 8 months. So the first one was in like digital marketing, and now I'm doing videography.
Wow.
Totally subverting the engineering expectations, by the way. I'm doing the opposite.
Yeah, but growing up in Central North Carolina, most of my friends that I went to school with in high school, friends. I mean, they're not friends anymore, but
friends, yeah.
They all went to NC State. So anyway, I mean, very incredible. I mean, I'm impressed. And by the way, I mean, your guys' music, we're going to play here in a second, sounds great. I mean, I love it. It's really, really, really crisp, really good.
Yeah, because I was screening it, and I was like, no, I like their stuff, and they're funny. I was going through your Instagram, because you guys didn't give me a link to the music, so I was like, okay, well, I guess I got to go on Instagram covers. And I was telling him, I'm like, well, because I would like sing it to him over the phone. Well, they're covering this song, and he's like, wait, that's not theirs. They didn't write that. I'm like, well, no, I think they got their own music. I'm pretty sure. I'm really. Let me do it, Nick.
To send you guys into like duress. My bad.
Yeah, Nick wanted to break up. He's like, the show is over.
This is my show.
It's like, okay, Nick, I'm sorry. I'll get someone else.
So speaking of that, why don't we play your song? And we're going to play this song here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the name of this song here? It's
well, I gave you the title, Nick.
I know what the title is.
Oh, okay.
I'm asking them to tell me.
I'm just making
sure. I want them to know
like,
why.
I didn't do my homework.
I want them to tell me
guys...
why it's named this.
Yeah. The song's called Adolescent Horse. It's
which is a great title. I mean, I love it.
Yeah, we loved it. Yeah.
Isn't that a pony?
What?
It's a pony, all right? An adolescent horse.
Well, yeah. You can't name a song pony. It doesn't make any sense. Like you want to write like a hard rock song and call it Pony.
Yeah.
And then you just
Yeah.
Like.
He's okay. Well, I guess this is in San Diego. It's fine.
In sports, you're riding the pine pony. You're betting on the ponies. I mean, I
get it. Yeah, yeah, rock. Right. Yeah.
Well, no, it's this like. It's this song about I'm the writer of it, I guess, and it's about I had a lot of frustrations when I was starting college about people who are they don't want to grind, they don't want to work really hard for a thing, they just kind of want it to happen.
Yeah. And
so with those frustrations and kind of like what I was feeling with architecture school and Windshop where it was at the time, and also just everything in general, I was like I love busting my ass to make things happen. Like, that's awesome. And so that's kind of where the song gets into a little bit.
Yeah. We liked it. We really liked it.
Well, we hope you like it too here on To the Echo Radio Show. This is Adolescent Horse by Windchop. We'll take a listen here.
You know that I'm breathing is too hard to sleep in. And now the doubt and how they're gonna make it through the night. Well, smoke on the water, it's changing its color. It's turning deeper purple, gonna make me feel alright. My head is all stopped up, the ladder is locked up. But if you're clever, you'll MacGyver something to the top. We'll keep it a secret, don't make it a regret. Or I can tell you might as well just take it to the ground. If ever you wonder how far you would go, just look at your brothers outside the door. And take it from me, kids, you can do worse. The sooner you free fall, the sooner you'll be back upon the saddle of your adolescent horse. Lost in the theory, you stuck in a theory. You forfeit to the bullshit when you throw up on the wall. My bed is on fire, the milk is expired. The psycho killer might just fill the words I'm thinking of. So put down the pencil and tear down that tinsel and leave your house and figure out a different way to work. If ever you wonder how far you go, outside the door. And take it from me, kids, you can do worse. The sooner you free fall, the sooner you'll be back upon the saddle of your adolescent horse.
So that's Adolescent Horse by Windchop. We've got them on the phone here today on To the Echo Radio Show. Windchop, we love this song.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now we want to know a little bit about what this song is about. What's your inspiration? Tell us about it.
Oh man. Well, yeah. So it's a little bit about the grind of working hard and just kind of being cool with busting your ass to make beautiful things and make good things happen, and not just expecting everything to be handed to you in terms of work or lifestyle or all that kind of stuff.
See, the way I was raised was everything is handed to you with a silver spoon.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I always thought life was. But
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to work, that's whatever.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Who would be the fool that works for whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I don't know. But that's subject matter, and then musically, it's sort of like I wanted to try to compose a multi-part. I don't know, like the way that classical musicians used to do it, where like you would have like certain expressions and parts that would be separate from each other. Yeah. So like the guitar solos being so different from each other and all that kind of stuff. And then like I was listening to a lot of Arctic Monkeys and stuff like that when I was, like the really reverby type stuff there when I was writing that just to get the feel right. And then like lyrically, like I put like a Deep Purple and like a Talking Heads references in there, just like psycho killer type stuff. Just I like doing that kind of stuff. Like lyrically, I don't know. It's like it's like cliches you can do, and you can write about love and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes I just like to have conversations with different artists in the past about their own lyrics and their own work, and bring that into a song.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, what about so is that like a song that you knocked out in a day, the thought, the idea, or is it one of those you hammered it for months?
That's a great question. I was writing that actually at the same time as another song on the same record that we just released. The other song is called 3 to 4. Yeah. They're sort of sister songs. They sound probably the most similar on the album.
Yeah.
But I started working on that one like 2015.
Yeah, this was like
Wow.
right immediately after we recorded our second album, which was in like June 2015.
Yeah.
Like if you go back through the archives, you can find Wilson like on his personal Instagram like teasing it from 3 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, because and that's sort of part of what we think is the interesting story about our progression from in my basement to indie record labeled sort of stuff is like holding on to that music, like writing it way long time ago, being like, okay, we're gonna record this in my basement in like a year or something, and then not actually doing that and taking the time to work on it more and perfect it, and then making it part of something much greater.
The story of the lyrical themes of Adolescent Horse are like weirdly embodied in the production of it. It's sorry to get like philosophical.
Yeah, well, that's a little too philosophical, Gus. I'm going to need you to pull it back a little bit, all right? Jeez, all right?
Hey, we're all about philosophy here and math and other things.
No, we're talking to kindergartners, okay?
No. There's something to be said for Canadian artists, and we here at To The Echo Radio Show have had quite a few, actually. And the next two artists that we're going to showcase here on the Best Of show both came from Canada. So, but very different genres. And so I hope you enjoy it. Up next, we're going to talk to a very nice young lady named Catherine Berry.
Okay, well, I'm a singer-songwriter from Canada. I've been playing for about 10 years now. My style is probably more in the 90s genre, I would think. It's sort of more like Sarah McLachlan, the Cowboy Junkies.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
It's a combination. Oh, and a little bit of Shakira in there, too, with the vocals.
Mm-hmm.
And I've released one album, and I'm about to release a second album, but I have released the lead single for it, which is So You're Going to California.
Which we loved, and we heard that. In fact, we're going to be playing it here in just a few minutes. But you said you've been playing for 10 years. Now, I just have to ask, how did you get into this? What were you doing otherwise? Because I saw I saw on your bio, now I'm just going to read this here because Derek hasn't read this, I don't think, but it says that you are a Canadian singer-songwriter, sound as folk rock, Sarah McLachlan, Shakira, yep, but that you are a reformed banker.
Yes.
So now, are you against bankers? Did you have a bad run-in with bankers? I need to know what this story is.
No. Banking is lovely, but it's awfully boring.
Oh.
And I used to sit up in those glass towers. Now, in Canada, what you have Wall Street, we have Bay Street.
Ah.
And I was in one of those tall towers on Bay Street working for trade finance. And I would look down on the small people in the courtyard, and I would think to myself, I just want to be one of them.
But I'll tell you, Bay Street sounds a lot friendlier than Wall Street. I don't know. Like, I want to hang out at Bay Street. That sounds nice.
Is it on the bay?
It is on Bay Street, and it's actually a lot of filming it takes place on Bay Street when they are too cheap to go to New York.
Aha. Interesting. So whenever we see, we want, like, at the end of a movie reel, you'll see big thanks to Canada Film Company. We can know that it's there by the bay.
That's right.
Wow. So what did you do in the banking industry? So you're up in the big towers.
I was in trade finance.
Wow.
Trade finance, yeah.
That's, dealing with big shipments of oil and wheat and consumer goods that, Canada exports. Yeah, it's imports and exports, the big ones.
Yeah.
So you're not, you're not doing teller stuff. You are, that's hardcore. I mean, that's real banking.
Yeah, that's real banking.
Well, thanks a lot, Nick.
Were you a teller?
Listen, Catherine, let's not get off on the wrong foot here. But no, I was a sales guy. I had an office. People come in, and I'd be like, "You want to open an account? How about you open a second account? Why don't you get a credit card? You know what? Get a mortgage. Buy a car."
Yes. I started doing that too. And you know what? When I figured it was like just being a waitress for financial goods.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's especially a waitress for me. Yes, I felt like a waitress. And no,
you are a waitress, Derek.
I don't know about you, Catherine, but I had like a mental breakdown in the place. I remember being there.
It's awful.
It is. Like, I remember sitting at the desk one day and all these deals were just happening all at once. Like, they were sending me to different locations every day. And it was like the perfect storm of all deals. All my customers were going to different locations, ready to buy something. It was all on me. And everybody's texting me and messaging me like, where are you? Where are you? And I remember standing up from my desk and walking into my manager's office. And I'm like, if I don't leave right now, I'm going to freak out. And that was my last day at the credit union.
Not that we're going to name any names of companies, but credit union, if you'd like to sponsor us,
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Oh.
So, but you had plenty of customers. It sounds like that's a good thing. Aren't you? Were you with commissions? So you must have been making hand over fist.
Well, I made hourly and commission. Yeah, I was making a lot of money. That's the thing. Like, my customers love me and my managers love me because I was really good about getting people in and talking to them. But it was one of those jobs where you go home and that's all you think about. And I lived for the weekend. I dreaded every single day of going to work. And then the weekend I would have some peace. And then Sunday would come around and I'd be, oh my God,
depressed.
Not again. Yeah. And but I thought that's what you have to do. So I got the hell out of there. And there you go.
Good on you. And now you get to tell the story on air.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
But the real story I want to hear is how did you get from, I mean, like I said, that's a pretty hardcore. It's hard for me to imagine transitioning from a job like that into being a singer-songwriter. And did I read also that you're also Director of Artist Management at PSD Musique.
Yes,
So
yes, I am.
Tell me a little about that. What is that?
Sorry, I develop other artists.
Wow.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah, so I get them out there onto the stage. I book them. I get their online presence up, because that nowadays is very important, and how to interact on social media to get more followers, get more interest in your art and your work, and get people out to your shows.
Wow.
But yeah, you were asking me about why I got into music, and that answer is really because my mom died of brain cancer, and I kind of got a little bit. It's not hereditary, so I shouldn't have been worried. But still, you think about it, and you think about your mortality, and I started to read more about, because, she started to lose her memory and many things. And apparently music is very good for all kinds of things in the brain. It makes you smarter, happier, more productive, and it activates every known part of the brain, music. So musicians actually have bigger and better connected and more sensitive brains than the average Joe Blow.
Well, we don't like to brag about the size of our brains, but...
The size of your brains.
Yeah, it's pretty big. I don't want to,
Indeed. No, but seriously, actually, you hear about people who, when they're pregnant, they play music for the baby, and they come out with a deeper appreciation of music, makes them better at math. Kids that listen to music have better mathematical skills, or better with grammar and a lot of other things too. So it's true. It's definitely true. And that's not why I love music, but of course music's been a big part of my life. So yeah, definitely. That's really cool. So how did it happen? How did you make the transition? Did you one day say to yourself, I'm really tired of this, or was it your mother? What exactly led you into the career you're in now?
The nail in the coffin was I used to live in Paris, France.
Oh, wow.
And I loved it there. And it was so wonderful. I had both my kids there. And my husband had a transfer with his work to come back to Canada. And I don't know what South Carolina weather is like, but I can tell you that the winter in Montreal is very cold. So I said, if you are going to take me back to that, I get to do whatever I want. And I get to be a rock star.
I love it. Just to answer the question really quickly, the Charleston winters are pretty hot.
Yeah.
It's a tropical climate down here, so...
He wouldn't have had to make a deal with the devil if he went there.
Yeah, that's true. We had our first snowstorms in years in January, though, where everything in Charleston's connected by bridges. So if it even threatens to snow, they shut the city down. Schools are closed for a week.
Completely ridiculous.
Yeah, completely. We got 5 or 6 inches of snow, and you would have thought it was a Holocaust in a lot of cases.
The zombies were out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody in the South knows how to drive. Yeah, nobody knows how to drive in the winter weather. People freak out. There's a fun fact for you. We have 40 wrecks per rainstorm on average in Charleston. So if people can't learn to drive in the rain, you can imagine what it's like in the sleet.
With a little bit of snow.
Just a little bit. Even the threat of snow, people are like, nope, it's over.
I can't drive.
So you're coming back from Paris. You're telling your husband, look, I'm going to be a rock star whether you like it or not. And he says, okay, that sounds amazing. And so then what? Did you just, you popped into someone's studio? Did you set up your own thing? Where did you go from there?
How did I do it? Oh, I had a girlfriend in Paris, and this is why I started to do it. And she is Quebecois, so she speaks French. Montreal is in Quebec, the French-speaking part of Canada. And she wanted to write in English, so she asked me to write lyrics for her in English. And that's how I started moving in that direction. And I thought, oh, this is really fun, writing these lyrics in English. So then I thought, why should I just do it for her? Why don't I do it for myself?
Yeah, don't let her get all the money.
Exactly. So I started to do it myself. I picked up a guitar and started, learning a few chords. And my first songs were only, a couple of chords. And actually, when I play them live, those songs are the favorite songs of people.
Yeah. Oh,
even though they're 2 chords.
Yeah. It doesn't matter, man. Keep it simple, stupid. That's it. That's how people like it.
Yeah, I mean, AC/DC made a career out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm making a career of it.
Yeah.
I say I'm a 2-chord wonder.
No. Come on.
Oh, I've improved.
Now, how many chords now? 3, 4?
Oh, yeah, 3 or 4. If you're lucky.
Man. Well, that's the thing. Because you meet a lot of people who think you got to do so many. And it's like, I feel like a song loses it, or an easy song. What do you find, Catherine, when you write a song? Or is it the songs that you write in 20 minutes that are the ones that you're like, yes? Or is it the ones that you spend weeks or months on?
It's usually the ones that come right away. Yeah. So You're Going to California came right away. The Mum song, which I haven't recorded it professionally, but whenever I play that live, that came in 20 minutes. But they've probably been there for a while, and then you've all of a sudden, oh my gosh, this is it. I just have to write it down quick.
Yeah, it's like somebody put it in your head, and you're like, all right, here's the gift.
And it just comes spewing out.
Yeah. I agree.
You're a songwriter.
Yeah, a little bit.
Don't let him be modest.
From the intro music of To the Echo radio show. I don't know if you've heard it, but
I love that song.
Oh yeah, I wrote that.
No, that's enough of that. All right, sorry.
Yeah, but that was a 30-minute session in the home studio. But no, I started writing when I was like 15, and just like you, it was like two chord songs, and mine were probably a lot worse back then. As a 15-year-old, you don't have any real experience, so everything's just butterflies and rainbows and all that.
I bet your lyrics were great. Come on, tell me something.
No, the first one's not so much. There was some extra, like ones I started writing later. I was 15, 16. Like I wrote a song called "Fell for Her Whisper," and I started playing that out at a little coffee shop.
I don't think I've heard that one.
Yeah, but that was like the favorite in my school, and I won a talent show with it and everything. But
did you get the babes?
Yes. It was awesome.
I think that's what it's all about, really.
That's why, I got to be honest, Catherine, though. I got into songwriting because I wanted to impress girls, and I find that probably 100% out of 100, 100 times out of 100,
100% out of 100
worked.
It never worked?
Never, no, because girls would, think about it. Like me, I would see you. I don't necessarily need to know you, but I could see you and be inspired, and I'd write a song, and then I would just come to you with the song, and, I'm 31
and that's awkward.
now. It's very awkward. Like, I've had a song written about me by a girl I didn't really like, and it was the weirdest thing in the world, because I'm like, what do you expect me to do with this? And then I realized, I woke up in that moment like, oh, crap, I've been doing this to everybody. So,
oh, my gosh, you're so right.
Yeah, So my wife and I, she liked me just because I was nice and persistent. She appreciates my music, but she definitely didn't marry me for it.
Which is good because he doesn't make any money off of it.
Yeah,
persistent.
I'm just kidding. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I'm telling Catherine, since I was 12 years old, all I wanted to do was be in love, and I tried many, many, many times. And then when I met my wife, she was dating somebody else, so it was just waiting and just keep.
Oh, you were the friend.
Yeah, kept hammering it, because I knew that guy was a douche. I knew. I was like, this guy sucks. He's gonna go down, and he did. He went down in flames. And then
And you were there to pick up all those pieces.
That's right. You got it. And here I am, hosting a show, not playing music.
Yeah,
so
right.
there you go.
Exactly. Here we are.
With a baby upstairs.
Yeah. And I got to wake her up. So she's going to be very confused when I'm talking to you guys. And she's just like, what are you doing, bro?
You might have something to say.
Yeah, if you hear her, I'm sorry.
So, Catherine, once you started doing songwriting, who did you write most for in your life?
Oh, in the beginning, it was mainly my family. I wrote about my family, my girls, my mom. A couple of songs in there about random people that really weren't about anybody at all. I think. Oh, hold on a second. Oh wait.
No, you're good.
That was. Sorry, the phone rang. Okay, what was I saying? It was about my family.
Yeah, it's okay.
Exactly. Yeah, I think. What is it? Oh, Beauty of the Brave, which is the lead song off of the album of my first album. That is actually the girl who asked me to do the lyrics. She was, can I say this on air? Sexually abused by a famous artist here in Quebec.
Oh wow!
And
Oh wow!
That is her song. It's not mine. I wrote it for her, but I used it on my own. Oh dear. Sorry, I used it on my own album.
We are teleprompter free.
I'm sorry. Who knew? This person is relentless.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Just so popular. Nobody ever calls me, and
Well,
here we are.
you see, you come live on To the Echo radio show, and the calls just never stop.
Yeah, you're famous. Like you're gonna have to change your name, Catherine. I don't know how you have to get a bodyguard.
Exactly. Oh yes, I have a bodyguard. Of course I do.
Yeah, now you can just call yourself Barry Cat.
Yes. And okay, so that song. I'm not changing the subject. I'm going to keep my name. Although I don't like my name. That's funny you should say that. Every time I write it on an album cover, I always think it's not a rock star name. I need something that looks nicer.
Like Catherine Strawberry, or
like Madonna. I mean, that looks good.
No, I don't like Madonna. Come on.
Yeah.
Not even the name?
No, I don't think so. Let's go. I mean, it's like Mad Anna, kind of like Frozen Mad. I don't know. I'm not into it. No, I'm just kidding. But what would you have your name be? I mean, seriously, if you had to pick, let's do it right now. If you had to pick a stage name, what would it be?
I would probably go with Cat Ballou.
Ooh. No, wait. Baloo or Blue?
Oh, yeah, Cat Blue might be good.
Cat
I was
Blue.
going with Cat Ballou, which I think it was like that won the Oscars in the 1968.
Uh-huh.
It was Jane Fonda. It was her first big role, and it won an Oscar. And I loved her in that role, and I thought she was so cool because she was this sort of renegade woman who went about trying to take revenge on the person who killed her father.
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to look this up now. What she you said it was an Oscar that she won?
I think so, and the character's name was Cat Ballou. I don't think the name of the movie was Cat Ballou, but the character was Cat Ballou.
We'll have to figure out what
Jane
that was.
Fonda played it.
Huh, very interesting. Yeah, I can't find it fast enough, but okay, very cool. Yeah, Cat Blue, I like that. What do you think, Derek?
Yeah, I mean, but I didn't have a problem with Catherine Barry. In fact, when I saw your name pop through in our email, I was like, well, I have to check this out. So
yeah, me too.
It was intriguing enough.
It's funny that of course, when you ride an elevator in the United States, I'm assuming it's the same in Canada. There's always a certificate that's on the inside, and it's signed by whoever the commissioner of that state is that does the safety. Well,
Okay.
in North Carolina, it's Sherry Berry. And I grew up looking at the name Sherry. I actually finally met her because my mother in North Carolina is semi into politics, sort of. But anyway, Sherry Berry, sure enough. So when I saw Catherine Berry, I hearkened back to it's the elevator. It's like Elevator Girl. She's a real elevator baby, up and down player. Okay, excellent. Well, moving on past that. Now, listen, we want to play your song, so set this up for me. Going to California. Have you been to California? When I called you a little bit earlier today to set up the show, and I thought you lived in California. So when I found out it was Montreal, I was like, what time zone are you in? So tell me about California. What does this song mean for you?
Okay, well, I did film the video in California. I did go to California because I have my girlfriend actually lives in Vegas, which isn't far from California, and she's a celebrity photographer. She's the co-founder of Wire Images.
Oh, very cool.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I think the last time she did a cover shot for me, she did it in between doing Mariah Carey, Jennifer Lopez, and Celine Dion.
Oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me! That's crazy.
Yeah, and then she did me. All of the big stars.
You're the best one of them all.
Yeah, I mean,
so,
Catherine, I bet you were the most fun for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I was actually the easiest to take.
Jennifer Lopez, unbelievable. That's crazy.
I know, but because she's a celebrity photographer in Vegas, and all those people had their shows in Vegas. All those big signs you see, she takes those pictures of those people.
Wow, very interesting. So what was the name of her company again? We'll give it a plug.
It's Wire Images.
Wire Images. Go check it out.
Yeah. That's it.
Her name is Denise Trusello. She takes Celine Dion all the time.
So if your name is, Celine Dion or Ryan Reynolds or, Patrick Stewart or whatever, go to Wire Images. I mean, you're a celebrity. They'll take your picture.
Yeah, she's taken them all. She does Kim Kardashian. She does everyone.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
So you went to California. You had a photo shoot. Is the song about going to do a photo shoot?
No. The song is, one night I was kind of arguing with my husband, and and it was a night where we were asked to go to a wedding, my brother's 50th birthday, just a bunch of things we were supposed to. Oh, it was my husband's office party, and we all had to do it in one day, and we were just fighting like cats and dogs. And I just said, okay. My brother lives in Ottawa, which is about a 2-hour drive away. So I just said, look, I'm going to drop into the wedding, and I'm just going to leave because I just can't stand looking at you. And
Who hasn't been there?
Man, what a great story. I can't wait for the end.
by the time I got to the party, everyone's having a good time, and I just decided I am just going to have a good time. And I stayed out all night with a random stranger whom I'm gathering he was an okay person because he was a friend of my brother's. He was at his party.
Yeah, he was probably fine.
He was probably fine. And yeah, we had a great time. And so the story is basically the song is basically about meeting this random stranger who told me his whole life story in one night, and he was on his way to California to see his daughter.
Wow.
Oh, so that was the turnoff right there, huh?
That's right.
Very not interested. You got a daughter?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just gonna write this song, and we'll see you later.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but is this the lead song off the new album? Where does this fall in your genre, in your catalog?
Yeah, this is the lead song off of an album that I hope to be releasing in the very beginning of next year, and it's going to be called Misdemeanors.
Misdemeanors. Wow, I love it. Misdemeanors. Captain Barry Misdemeanors.
Have you committed some misdemeanors in your lifetime, Catherine?
I might have done that, yes.
Okay,
all right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a listen here to Going to California. It's off the new upcoming album, Misdemeanors, and I can't wait to hear all about it on the other side. So let's take a listen. Going to California.
sleeps in your closet. You say this with a grin that looks kind of philosophic. You got some pretty nice teeth, I see. I bet you grew up in a real nice family. I'm not sure who you came with, but I'm pretty sure we're both kind of wasted. And I need some new material for my show. So I'm just gonna see where this is gonna go. Can we just have some fun till the night's done? Till you see that morning sun. Can we just have some fun till the morning sun? Till we're good enough. Can we have some fun till we're fucking done? So you're going to California. It's been a while since you've seen your daughter. I've been looking at you and all that ink, and I find it interesting. I do. Like the one that looks like it's still mourning her. I'm liking that one in particular. Now when I'm gone, we'll have this song, and you will have done nothing wrong except turn me on. I'm not who you came with, but I'm pretty sure we're both kind of wasted. And I need some new material for my show. So I'm just gonna see where this is gonna go. Can we just have some fun till the night's done? Till we see that morning sun. Can we just have some fun till the morning sun? Till we're good enough. Can we have some fun till we're fucking done? Can we just have some fun till the night's done? Till we see that morning sun.
Next up, we have another Canadian artist named Ed Roman singing his song Red Omen. And what a character this guy was. Really, really nice guy. Incredible musician. And it's interesting to note that he played all of the instruments that are on this album that he did. So be sure to go check out Ed Roman. We were extremely impressed with him and just had a really great conversation with him as well. So, yeah, take a listen here. Ed Roman. I started my first vegetable garden this year, actually. My wife and I bought a house and grew a bunch of... It's actually blooming pretty well. It's squash, zucchini, broccoli, tomatoes, and strawberries. So what's gardening like up in Canada? How's that? You have good weather for it up there?
Well, you buggers down in Charleston, all that nice weather.
Yeah.
You're growing all that stuff.
Hey, we're
Probably
having a great
tomatoes.
time.
We have short windows. You have to be creative. I mean, we're starting tomato and pepper seeds in our kitchen in late February to nurse them to that point to get them into the ground. And I mean, we buy some stuff that's local from some local greenhouses that we pop in the ground. But potatoes, corn. Cabbage this year we're doing, it's got 18 tomato plants out there, plus we did another 24 in like big huge containers.
Wow.
What else?
That's hardcore.
Anything that you can possibly think of, we kind of do. So and I've been doing it my whole life. Again, it's sort of like it's like you started gardening. I'm like, yeah, more people are gardening because I always say to my mom, she's 82, Mom, thank you for giving me that gift of the appreciation of what it is. It's not just the coming up to the trough to eat, but everything that goes into it, from when you're planting to looking after it and then consuming, sharing, that robust sense of satisfaction that you get is like, we did this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's happening right in our very backyard. It's happening on our farm. And if you can't, and people are supporting local farmers markets and things like that, where people are doing that on 25, 50 acre, 100 acre parcels, starting the family farm again. That's good.
Yeah.
It means we're all buying locally, interjecting locally into the economy. You're eating better because the quality of the food is that much closer to you. There's so many wins there, gentlemen.
Yeah.
So many wins.
Oh yeah.
I have to ask the question: do you ever play music for the vegetables, or for the?
Hey, it's a scientific thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
you know, do they grow better? Like, what's up?
Well, look, I've had my bass amp set outside to do a video, and I'm always walking around the yard in the summer, like playing my guitar. So I mean, they got to be listening.
Yeah. That's cool.
That's one thing I read about you is that you play. Do you play all of the instruments on your album? You do, right?
Some of the songs I do, and some of the songs there's guest musicians, part of the band. It's this is the thing again, like gardening. Songs when they unfold, and it's one thing to write them and then figure out how to like capture it. I allow that same process to sort of take over. I look and I go, okay, what needs to be done here? Do I need to hoe? Who's a good hoer? Or maybe I can hoe this. Let me give it a shot. So, and then I start to realize some of the music says, well, wait a minute, this has got to be captured live off the floor because it's like a jazz number or a fusion-y kind of number. Or it requires that sound of a band vibe. I follow that just because it's almost saying it to you. It's like when you're following the idea through a song, that initial spark that comes that makes you grab the pen and the paper and start. That's the one part of it. That's the seed.
Yeah.
But then again, as you go through it, you're like, oh no. So recording shoot. Okay, let me try this. And in some of the tunes, I'm like, well, I want to try because it's like the kid in the candy store with the gear I have in my studio here at Area 51. I'm like, well, why not?
Area 51. I've heard a lot about that place.
Yeah.
I think the whole world has.
I thought it was in Nevada.
Oh yeah, those crazy.
That's the time warp and
those liars in the government. They've been telling us the wrong. It's up in Canada.
Yeah, of course, Canada. Yeah,
closer to the. It's closer to the top of the planet. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I'm going to
We
tell
got
you.
them hidden in the icebergs here, John. In the icebergs.
Now I'm going to tell you, Derek and I have played together for quite some time. He's a singer-songwriter. I'm a bass player, and I have to say, your bass lines are real funky. I mean, I love them. I mean, that's one of my favorite parts. Is I think I've seen a video. In fact, I think Red Omen. That's the video I saw of you playing the bass. It sounds great.
Well, you know what? That's my 4-string lover, man. I look. What grade 10? Jamming in the basement of friends' houses. Nobody wanted to play the bass.
No, never.
Got one from like the band department, and then it was from another high school teacher. Gave my buddy 2 Jaco Pastorius records and said, "Your buddy's going to start playing the bass. Give him these."
Mm-hmm.
And then when I heard it, I was like, "What?" And then I'm like, "Okay," and I went to college. That's what I did. I studied bass, jazz performance.
Wow.
And, I bought an upright. I love that beautiful woman, and at the same time, you guys, you write, you play, we're all drummers at heart.
Yeah.
You're going to get behind a kid at some point, bongos, hand drums, djembes, whatever they may be.
Oh, yes.
And the keyboarding thing came for me a little bit later. We had an old Heinzman piano. My grandmother used to work for Mr. Heinzman scrubbing his floors, and as a gift for her work for so many years, he gave her this piano.
Crazy.
I got it after she passed away, but... a little accordion. I got a real Hammond organ with my Leslie. Like I'm old school. I've got a Fender Rhodes here. So I like that earthy, rooty, tony kind of stuff, and playing funky bass or lines that are like that. That's part of me. Like bass in your face, fat lip.
Did you have experience? Because I'm sure I've been in a band with Nick for a while, or we've done a lot of band stuff. The chicks usually don't go for the bass player. I'm just
not in our experience.
Yeah.
No, that's a joke.
You know what?
They
I'm
were
a
always after
homebody,
Derek.
and I love my wife.
Yeah.
And
Me too.
at
Me
the end
too.
of the gig, I'm looking for like ice cream.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
a place where we can get like, a salad and some snails.
Yeah. Well, how long ago did you meet your wife?
We met back in '94.
Okay.
Oh,
We got
okay.
married in 2001, so we've been together
Wow.
24 years and 17 years married coming in July.
Whoop whoop, man! Oh,
Yeah,
congrats. That's
Yeah,
excellent.
that's amazing.
Yeah, we. I'm just kidding with the whole chick thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean we're all
I'm
married
also
here.
I'm a happily married
we're
man.
all married. You
Hey,
know.
look, if I need to sire, I need to sire. You know,
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So I mean, I'm fascinated with the style of music. I mean, who would you? Okay, let me ask you this: who would you say is your biggest inspiration for doing this? What you do?
wow, that's a really tough question because, guys, you know as well as I do, there's so many people, like, even just in our day-to-day lives. Like, it's funny. Like, I think of my dad, who was, like, tone deaf. I love you, Dad.
Like Beethoven.
He's no longer with us.
Yeah.
But you know what it was? It was passion and this sort of connection to the public. In a weird way, I find music as like two things. One, it's like a beautiful crime. And what I mean by that is, like, we have this ability to say and do all these things and portray imagery and, you know, almost go back in time, or, like I said, even think about the future. And it's like, you know, French thieves that burrow through the ground for days under swimming pools to break into a bank in Europe, and when they do, they finally get into the vaults and nobody's injured or hurt, but on the walls, while they're eating baguette and fresh pâté and a bottle of champagne, they write without, you know, violence, without pain, but with intellect. You know, it has that kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, this public service, my father was the mayor of our town for 32 years. He was police commissioner for 14. He was chairman of York Region. He was the first federal coalition candidate ever in the history of Canadian federal politics who ran as an independent and won.
Well.
He did this while he had a brain tumor and multiple sclerosis.
Man.
But my dad hated the word politics, and music is very political sometimes because of the things that we say. And he believed that politics isn't the right word, public servant, because we serve the public, we listen to the public, and that we are the voice for the public. Music has that same thing. We are the voice of the public, of that conscious stream of thought that we're all talking about, what's on the front page today, what's in your mental spectrum, how is it affecting you. It all has that same sort of connection. So as many musicians, as I like to say, are in that boat that inspired me, as many other people that are in that boat, my dad is really a part of that, a big part of that, why I do what I do.
Mayor, police commissioner. Are you Batman?
Yeah. Was he Batman?
Hey, you know what? When it happened when I was a kid, I was watching Batman when my mom told me, hey, your father just became the police commissioner. And I looked at the television, and I'm watching Batman. And I'm like, so what? He's going to meet Batman? Like, we're going to meet Batman? You know, it was like 1976. She's laughing.
Now, okay, so that's an amazing story. I mean, that's why I was so excited to get you on here. I have to say, you know, Derek and I are children of the mid '80s, so you know we grew up with the '90s. And when I first heard your song, your Red Omen was the first one I heard. I loved it. I mean, I thought it was great. You reminded me, mostly in the timbre of your voice, of the one of the singers from the Bare Naked Ladies. And I listened to that, and I was like, who? I could not figure out how old you were. Like if you were, I didn't know if you were a young guy or. I mean, and then I found out you're this really experienced like musician, and I heard your other songs, and I was like, wow, I was so wrong. This guy is way above that. I just had to tell you that because I thought that's what it reminded me of. But I love the folkiness of your music. What is your current? What do you call your project? Is it the Ed Roman band, or what is your project right now?
Ed Roman, but I mean, you know, I've always kind of considered us like as Special Ed and the Musically Challenged. I mean, Ed Roman is what I go by. All my albums say Ed Roman, but I play with a very special group of people, and we've been playing music together for a long time, and we challenge each other. And we push each other in really interesting directions. And I like that. I think that's healthy inside the music environment. Even that's why we were pushed as young people to do what we did. Hey, guess who learned the next chorus from the tune? And it's like, okay, I'm going to go home that night and learn the next chorus.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like all of that is the same healthiness, I think, inside of it. But it's Ed Roman, it's me. It's the tunes I write. That's even why the last album is an anagram of my own name, because I was labeled a dyslexic, which is actually, I think, a gift. And at the same time, it's just where things are at. Ed Roman, that's it. That's me.
And we talk about it all the time on the show. That's really what's missing in music today is bands where it's not a group of people that, boy bands serve their purpose, but it's not supposed to be, a record label putting together a group of people that don't know each other. It's a group of people that get together because they have common interest and they feed off of each other in a studio environment. Yeah. And that's what I get from your music, is that you really, this is all very well thought out, and you are inspired to do this music rather than just writing something to make money. And I think that's very refreshing.
Well, it's continual. Like I said, it's a lifelong pursuit. And, without going over the emotional top about everything, I'm doing this because I have to. The reason I've always played music is it's been a necessity. It's a form of how might I say, internal connectiveness to everything that's happening for me, not just in my personal life, but my immediate community, my country, the world. And I don't want it to sound hokey, but even if I never make any money or make millions of dollars, and to tell you the truth, gentlemen, if I did, I'd give most of it away because I have everything I need already. Yeah. I have the ability to create a place to grow food, a roof over my head, a woman who loves me, a good family. That's gold.
Yeah, that's all you need. Now, let me ask you this. Talking about having what you need to create, do you produce and master all of your work as well? Do you work with someone that comes into your studio? How do you do the production?
Great question. I used to go to other studios, but when we got this farm and we put this addition on the house, I built a studio. Built a studio for my wife. She's a potter. But I've been working with a gentleman named Mike Jack since 1986. Mike is a world-renowned producer and engineer. He's very humble. He's like my Eddie Kramer. He has worked with people like Bono, The Trues, Rush, Oscar Peterson, and Murray. The list is kind of scary when you think about it. But and producers like Jack Douglas. He was the last person to see Lennon alive when they were working on Lennon's last album. Oh wow! That's crazy. Eddie Kramer. He's been hanging out with Eddie Kramer, working on. It's like nuts. So for him to not only be my friend, but he plays the studio like a musician. He's a musician himself. He plays guitar. He's a great singer. But, working with somebody like that means I don't have to be technically umbilical to everything so I can be creative. And that's why I say I'm lucky, because he loves the projects. And that's the other thing. He has that same mentality in terms of what I said about songwriting, which is we follow the recording process. We know implicitly where things are going once we begin. And when we start tracking something in whatever fashion, we can start hearing things, or let's bring in the band and then cut it like this, or no, let's build this, or let's get somebody like so-and-so to be like the guest. That's what I love about him. He's almost improvisational in his approach to the studio without being clinical. Yeah. He's also worked in those environments with big projects like Hillary Duff and other things that are like that. So it's why I said man, dude, I love you. And then he's like, but don't take any pictures of me. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, nothing. Literally, gentlemen, the only things that are really online are his pictures of his feet and his jacket.
Wow.
I thought you were going to say his junk, but
it's well, yeah, that's. Everybody's got that online,
He's the invisible man.
Yeah, but that's amazing. I have to say, I also really like your videos that you did on YouTube. I've seen several of them of you in the studio, just producing the songs or and singing and everything, and it's really cool. I mean, it's very like grassroots feeling that you get to see you in the studio and working on this project, and I feel the passion from it. So I mean,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's really, really cool.
Well, like, hey, you remember like watching stuff like Stevie Wonder doing stuff like that, or you saw other video clips. Like I couldn't believe it, but there was some of the stuff that went through the Keith Richards documentary that came out a while ago, where it's just like Keith and Charlie,
Yep.
you know, working on stuff, and it's Keith playing bass. It's not even Ron Wood, you know, like, and I like that because it doesn't have to be the ego there or potentiality. I want to remove that even from my experience. I don't want to always have to be the dictator in a situation. It's one thing to be the captain of a ship on a gig and you're the spokesperson for the night. But when you're talking about creativity and you begin to arrest it with that, it's really unhealthy.
Yeah. Sometimes I gotta relinquish some of that control.
Yeah, Derek's a control freak.
No, well, I'm very. I am. I mean, and I get that from my father. My dad was a drummer, singer, and you know, he played and got to open up for a lot of big bands. But like, I learned that from him. He goes into rehearsal pissed off nobody practiced or whatever, and then I get that, and then I go to rehearsal and I'm like, why don't you know the part?
I tell you, I got a really good practicing work ethic from Derek.
Yeah, I did.
Because I don't want to be the guy that doesn't know the parts.
Yeah. So the last group we played in, we let our drummer be that guy, and we both gang up on him.
Yeah.
Nick was like, "All right, as long as I'm on Derek's side, it's okay."
I feel bad.
Well,
for
and a
him.
drummer is so regimented, so it's got to rub off. So
Yeah.
you're like, you know.
Oh man, well, I'm glad you got that part. Oh man, I hope someday I find that piece.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, well, I'd like to play your song. I think our audience is going to love this. So why don't you set up for us Red Omen, what it's about. I think it's the title track on your latest release, right? So tell us about this song.
Great. Well, it's about me, as I mentioned. It's an anagram. It's filled with allegory about my life, and at the same time, some fantasy of things that, you know, I wished people I could have met, or inspirational people, like Jimi Hendrix, you know, going to this base camp on Machu Picchu, they house UFOs, and, you know, but at the same time, as I mentioned, it also is prognosticating, you know, it has that sort of like third verse, like, well, here's kind of where things are going. But it's all fun. It's encapsulated into like this sort of like, well, this is kind of Ed, but is it, or is it Red? You know, so and that's about it, and it's a lot of fun, kind of African-y. Well, let's listen to it, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So that being said, this is Red Omen from the artist we're talking to, Ed Roman, and you're listening to the Echo Radio Show. So why don't you take a listen, and we'll be right back with Ed Roman.
Tell you that I grew up with Red Omen, and boy was he a neat kid. He had all sorts of really cool things to play with, like a plutonium spaceship lunchbox and a bathtub full of Lego. And I didn't believe you when somebody said that he fled with Jimi Hendrix to a UFO-type base camp up on Machu Picchu. Up on Machu Picchu. I said, excuse me, it's not my fault. He's playing the crime, so he can't get caught. I said, excuse me, I must confess. Well, give me 2 words. Well, in my defense, laughing mad. I'm laughing mad. Laughing mad. There's a red-hot stove down in Pittsburgh going out hard like a cherry pie. Call me a fibber, call me a liar, say it to my face, like a cross between Benjamin Franklin and Ian Pace. And I didn't believe the man from MI6 living out in the sticks, who souped up his side by side like Evel Knievel, just like Evel Knievel. I said, excuse me, it's not my fault. He's playing the crime, so he can't get caught. I said, excuse me, I must confess. Well, give me 2 words. Well, in my defense, laughing man, I'm laughing mad. I'm laughing mad. Laughing mad. Play it out. Well, that's about all that sums it up for me today. You see, my nerves are shattered, tired, tattered, beginning to fray. Just like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, realizing only now you're caught in someone else's claws. And I didn't believe in myself, if no one else, to be making voodoo music in some small town way up in Canada. Way up in Canada. I said, excuse me, it's not my fault. He's playing the crime, so he can't get caught. I said, excuse me, I must confess. Well, give me 2 words. Well, in my defense, laughing mad. Well, I'm laughing mad. Well, I'm laughing mad. Laughing mad. Hey, did I ever tell you that I grew up with Red Omen? Boy, was he a neat kid.
So we'll close up our part 1 best of show here on To The Echo radio show with probably one of the most eccentric and certainly the furthest away from our studio artists that we've had, but certainly not the least. We really enjoyed meeting the Silver Snails. These guys were incredible. This guy, I should say, was incredible. Him and his wife are kind of a team, and he's from Italy, but he also has a place in Oregon where he spends some time. They dress up on stage with the makeup, and it's very much a show. It's kind of like Kiss meets, I don't even know. But we really enjoyed talking with the Silver Snails, and we hope that you'll enjoy this recap as well. And after that, we'll close the show out. So, yeah, take a listen. The Silver Snails.
I'm originally from the States. You know, I grew up mostly in Portland, Oregon, went to school on the East Coast, studied Asian languages and literature, ended up learning Chinese and studying Japanese and working in Asia. And long story short, I fell in love with a lady from Italy named Elisa Fantini. And we ended up getting married, and at a certain point had some money saved and decided to go back and basically focus on raising children. And at that time, I decided to devote myself full-time to music. And so the Silver Snails is basically the outgrowth of that quest, and it's our vehicle and our brands and our project and our way to make a living and, you know, do our mission in the world.
So where are you from? You said you're from the States originally. Are you from, I know you're in Portland right now. Is that where you're from originally?
I was born in San Francisco, and I spent some time in Texas when I was little. And then I went to public schools and high school in Portland, Oregon. And then I went to college at Amherst College in the East Coast. And then I've basically been living overseas in both Asia and Europe since college.
Wow, you've been all over the place. What's that like? I mean, now, did you come from a family that traveled or military or something? What led to all the movement?
Well, I think it's definitely, you know, inside me, just sort of who I am. I've always been so fascinated by mystery, and ever since I was a kid, I always sort of dreamed of going overseas. I was interested in learning foreign languages. I ended up majoring in Mandarin. I was a liberal arts major, but I just said, I want to learn Mandarin, so I did it.
Wow.
So I went to China, and then through my marriage, now I find myself living full-time in Italy. I have a dual citizenship, 3 kids in school under a castle in Italy. So I've had more than just, so that's really just following kind of my personal bliss, I would say, and my interests. But, in this day and age, it also can open opportunity. And so those are things that, even in the music project, I certainly try to work if they arise. The main one is just as we look at. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
No,
continue.
Holding forth here. You guys created a monster.
I love it.
I was talking to Nick before the show about people have different expectations. I think we all grow up with ideas about certainly what music is, but where it comes from and who makes it and the music business and all of that. Mm. And of course, whatever the music business was, where, they sold vinyls and, the Ed Sullivan Show and all that, it's not really that anymore. But music is still there and it's still really important.
Yeah.
And, but people have these expectations about what a music project should look like and whether music should come in packets of one song or, 8 EPs or LPs and audio and video and, is there a hard copy? And if not, then, how do we sell it and all of these things. So taking a step back, our goal is to bring joy to people through music and to make the best possible sort of handcrafted pop rock that we can and offer that as a commercial alternative in the marketplace as sort of self-representing artisans. But when we look at the marketplace, we're not necessarily talking about Portland or, some circuit. We're looking at the whole world, and we're sort of starting fresh and saying, okay, based on what's happening in the world with technology and media, how can we sort of surf whatever waves are there to reach as many hearts as we can and package our product in a way that's accessible to people, speak their language. And so, giving you that as background, maybe it helps understand a little bit why we have a song with an EP with 8 songs and, at least 5 of them are bilingual. But obviously the core is really pop rock, rooted in the Anglo sort of singer-songwriter tradition, U.S., British, et cetera, the stuff that I grew up with. Those are the roots. But obviously the project itself and what I'm trying to project is very forward-looking and kind of looking at the world, as one big oyster, if you will. And music can travel without limits, especially if you're willing to give it away, as we are on the internet. So it's a question of learning those channels and then feeding that and then figuring out how to project that and then ultimately monetize it as well, which means touring.
I tell you, Lucas, I'm going to be honest. Derek and I were liberal arts majors as well. In fact, we majored in music business. So to hear someone...
I heard that.
Yeah.
You're a bass player and Derek's a songwriter. That's kind of already I've got my guard up.
To hear someone break it down like that is incredible. You sound like our professor who had lived in Japan for a while.
Yeah.
Well, this is my own map, and certainly you've probably gathered that even though I work with my intuitive side to write and stuff, I'm a pretty cerebral person. But this is the map that I'm using to try to get through it. I'm just curious if any of it either resonates or creates a dissonance with the way you see it.
I don't think it creates dissonance in any way. It's interesting because it is hard to make a living doing music or writing music, especially as you said, the way that we've kind of come to know it over the last 50 years. Streaming has come a long way. where I would make a lot more money from songs and singles and stuff when people were buying the album outright, and now I get 3 or 4 cents here or there every month,
Right.
from iTunes Match or Apple Music, Spotify, all that. So it makes you have to be creative, especially to make a living out of it. So we don't make a full living out of doing music right now. I mean, we do other things. We got other jobs and stuff, but it's really cool to be able. I mean, to hear, especially on your side, you want to you're giving your music away. Right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, yeah, but that's, think of it, forget about music for a second. Think of software or apps, okay?
Yeah.
If you're in Silicon Valley, they talk about with the freemium model, basically you want to give away something that's cool that people can download so that then it becomes, on their phone or desktop or whatever. And then at some point you try to sell them on an upgrade. The whole music business, I think, you could easily view the production of a single or even an LP and videos as just free giveaway content in order to build the brand. And then the upgrade sale becomes the concert ticket.
Yeah.
And even if you could still sell a CD, okay, the artist might get $1, right?
Yeah.
But if you have a tour, I mean, some people will go see the same show more than once in a year. And if you look at like what people are paying in Italy, for instance, to see some of these name brand people, you can see that is just, that's, that business bears little resemblance to the recording industry or what's left of it, and so, yeah. But, I think that doesn't mean that it isn't important to write good songs and make good recordings and all that. It just becomes a question of how you do it and why and what the follow-through is.
Oh, and I absolutely agree to that. It's one of those things for what if folks don't have the means or the ability to go on tour. Because that's like I like you. I had a daughter a year and a half ago, and now the way me and my wife work, we kind of work opposite schedules, and I can't leave. I would love to go on tour and do those things, but just due to our circumstances, we can't. So, I love putting music out there. I love handing it to people and sending it to people, but it's like, well, then how else can you do it if you don't have the concert ticket? Like, have you tried any other things that have been cool or successful?
Well, there are certainly, in theory, 40 or 50 different ways that musicians can monetize their music. But in reality, the people that are doing that tend to be, established at a point where they're touring. So they're getting significant revenues on Spotify because, they're placed well enough within playlists, et cetera. And that's because they're on a label maybe. So it's definitely, the game is still, even though people can make music more independently and the internet kind of breaks some of the chokehold of like the old immediate channels, it's still heavily rigged against anybody independent, competing with the old label system and what you could call the machine.
Yeah.
And so our entire project is really just an experiment to see if it's even possible. And but we're going to the mat on it, and we could be close. It's hard to say from here.
That's wow. I mean, it's
certainly like I knew from the beginning that learning how to sing really, really well, like competing with anyone who's just like a standalone singer on just the singing, was really important. So that's like a daily investment for me. But it's also my whole family. I mean, we can do the whole family band thing. So literally I can go anywhere in the world and hire studio musicians, be a front man, and tour large or small. In fact, I did just that, set up my own little tour as more of a showcase thing in New York and also locally in Italy just to test the concept. So I think the answer is, like, if you have a brand and a touring opportunity, you could, in theory, build a tour that's, the right size, cost-wise, whatever. And I've seen things like, what's that guy who's king of acid jazz, a London-based guitar player, really big in the 90s, he came to Italy and he just brought his bassist, and they did a DJ set that they were singing and sort of jamming, over DJ equipment. So it was almost exciting as like a live performance, particularly if you knew their material, but super, super low cost.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that a lot, like some of the more established like brands that even the machine is trying to launch. It's like just one person or a duo or, something really light. When I see like big ensembles, like traveling around, I go, wow, how did they raise the money,
Yeah.
But you never know. I mean, there's so many crazy special situations too in music that, every situation's unique.
Now, I lived over in Germany for about 2 years, and while I was there,
yeah, you mentioned,
while I was there, I noticed that there were some bands that my wife and I went to see that had been, let's say, bigger in the States, I don't know, 10 years prior maybe, and they were just drawing huge audiences, and I was really glad to see it. One was a band I like called Blackberry Smoke. Loved to see that because they put on a great show, and the hallway was packed out. But it was a larger audience than what I don't know if they couldn't draw it now, but they do tour a lot. But I guess my question to you is, what is the difference? You said you did a tour over here in the States, a small one, and then you did it in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find it easier to get to venues and to play out more in Italy than you did in the States? Did you find it harder? What's the difference, in your opinion, between European market and the U.S. market?
Interesting question. Well, certainly the Italian market is heavily franchised, and not just in music, but meaning it's all of the business goes to the people that are already locked in. Like you can't, and it's passed down father to son. It's very. I found it almost impossible, even being local in Italy, to get, to be able to play anywhere really, because all of the stages are already given to the people that are already in the system.
Oh, wow.
And the big label people completely dominate the radio, and there really isn't an indie scene. And Italians for years have been used to just consuming purely label product. So the big difference in the States, and I'm sure it goes for the UK as well, is they really like, and there is, you have the big commercial machine stuff is everywhere, and most of the radio stations and stuff, it's just, there's the country flavor, the hip hop flavor, whatever, but it sounds pretty similar. But then there's people like you guys that really want to hear something that's independent. And so that exists here more, I would say, in the U.S. in particular. At the same time, it's also very, very competitive, but at least there are circuits, there are people, at the venue level, people at the radio DJ level and podcast level, all up and down, who understand like what you're trying to do as an independent artist, and there are angels, who really believe in it and try to help you. But it doesn't mean that it's in any way easy. And it was a real scrap just to get onto stages in New York, and fortunately I had some friends on the ground there who really went to bat for us. And once we were in there, people, I brought, high levels pros from Italy, and we rehearsed and we gave good shows, and it was a lot of fun. But it was situations where there might be 5 or 6 bands, one on the hour, at Spike Hill in Brooklyn or whatever. Or you're playing, the lobby of a famous club instead of the club itself. And there's like 6 other people waiting in line to do it. But, but just to be there was incredible. And for me, it was a really important proof of sort of what the Silver Snails, live as a rock band could be and how good it can be. So, I sort of live to get to that moment again. And with the new LP, of course, our new LP is like, that's the shot. That's the moon shot.
And that's what you're in Portland for right now, right? You're recording a new
Correct.
album. Yep. So
yeah, I've been working on it for a while.
So how does that work for you? I know you were talking earlier about having to travel. Do you have a friend maybe that's a studio? It's just a studio you prefer. What makes you go back to Portland to do this recording?
Well, before, I have roots in Portland. I went to high school, medical school here, etc. And, before I went overseas permanently, I found a storage space, which is like just a little small room apartment. Anyway, I have a lair, let's say, which is near Portland. And so I've been using that just to do business, really, every time I come back to the States. And a couple years ago, I decided that I could get my LP going by finding an engineer based in Portland. So I was going there anyway. It's a reasonable place to do it, and there's a lot of talent. And so I made a survey of all the studio's engineers and contacted my top 3, and he was lucky. The first one, my top one, said yes. So he agreed to be my engineer, but he's also doing other things for me now. So I'm writing and producing myself, but with a lot of help from professional Sherpas. So this guy owns a studio, and so he can source studio pros and et cetera. And now I was telling you about the Twitter promotion. That was also through this guy. So again, you're on your own, but if you're determined and you're willing to, put resources behind it, you can find people to sort of help you do anything you need to do.
Now, we were talking also earlier about you just mentioned there, the social media promotion that you're doing. I thought that was fascinating. You said something like 4 million followers on Facebook. That's incredible. How did that get going for you? I mean, what did you do?
Nuts.
I think we both want to know how that happened. I mean, luck of the draw here, or did you attack that with a strategy?
No. Well, that's the thing. I think one of the myths that a lot of people have is that if you write a really great song and just sort of throw it out there, that it'll sort of be carried, like a seed, and it'll just sort of take root and spread. But we have been putting it out there for a long time and getting really good feedback. But I think the reality for everybody is that if you want to start a new brand, whether it's in music or food or anything, you have to be willing to sort of spend a lot to promote it and so that people can sample it. And so imagine you're starting a band today. What do you got to do? Well, you got to have your concept and hopefully, your product. And so like with us, we started with an LP and we did it ourselves and we hired people to help us produce it, et cetera. And then you say, well, what are my media channels? Do I want a website? Some people might say, Facebook could take the place of your website, but you want to be on YouTube for sure.
Yeah.
You want to be on Facebook, and I would argue also Twitter and Instagram, especially if you're trying to reach, we're doing pop rock, originals, so we need to reach people in the Anglo markets that are like under 30. So that means being on Instagram for sure, which we are maybe a little bit late. But a few years ago, as we were setting all of this up, it became obvious to me just through experimenting that $1 spent on Facebook would go much farther than on anything else. And so, and I found myself at a point where there wasn't much I could do but promote on social media. So I really decided to run with it, and because again we started out with the charter really of being a global project for a global audience, creating a product for Facebook is really perfect because while it might cost you $1 or something to reach somebody, let's say in the US on Facebook, you might be able to reach 1,000 people who speak English in other parts of the world. Yeah. And even if they don't speak English, doesn't mean they won't enjoy what we do. And what we do is multilingual to begin with. And it's intended really as an audio love letter to the world. In other words, part of just the position that we're taking is that we're all one family, and music is part of that human cultural heritage. And so that's one thing that's commonality. And so we play with languages, we play with genres, we play with the social media channels, we play with theater, and whatever lever we have, again, to accomplish our joy, which is our goal, which is spreading joy.
Well,
fun.
Speaking of that love letter, there is a fantastic one called Dancing with the Stars. And I love this track. This is actually what drew me to message you the first time. We want to play that for our audience, showcase your music that you're talking about. How about set this up for us? What's this song? What's the inspiration behind this song?
Sure. Well, this is the first song on the LP, and so it's meant as a calling card, meaning if you don't know anything about the Silver Snails and you just want to watch one video, listen to one song, we say start with Dancing with the Stars. The inspiration for it is the inspiration that I imagine Stevie Wonder felt when he wrote that song, Isn't She Lovely? Where he's a new father and he's just sort of overwhelmed by this miracle that's occurred. And as a songwriter, he's trying to capture the moment in song. This is really just my version of that. And it came from a specific moment in time. I was kind of depressed, and I was on some train tracks in Italy with my daughter. She was 6 or something at the time, 5 or 6, and we had to go to Rome for something. And I was feeling down, and I looked at her, and she was just kind of bopping, just kind of dancing by herself, as kids do. And inspired me to start writing some lyrics, and that's how the song was born. And so she's the one that sings the chorus, because she's bigger now, and she's a very, very good singer. But she's, our own kids in the videos. So you hear her, and her sister, and also my wife sings on the song.
Oh, okay. So you got a little Partridge Family thing going on there. All right,
it's a family band. It's a family affair.
Yeah.
well, we're going to take a listen to it. So just hang on there for us, Lucas, and we'll play this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Silver Snails and Dancing with the Stars.
Thank you.
In questa immensità, l'uomo stanco di sentirsi solo in un universo vuoto chiede l'aiuto all'angelo della galassia.
Walk around and ask myself, how could this be possible? My heart feels tender, vulnerable. She just dances and chatters like a tropical bird. And when she's dancing, she's dancing with the stars. And when she's dancing to the music of the stars. tropical bird.